What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Dynamic Leaders page. I'm Norman Hartman. So glad to have you guys here with me for yet another dynamic topic, the chronic illness of bad habits. Man, I'm so excited to jump into this one. I put a Facebook post out there and you guys responded in kind. Thank you for your feedback. You guys gave to me the 12 distinct areas that I'm going to cover this morning. Let me give those areas to you. Firstly, inconsistency, redefining past trauma, breaking bad habits, shying away from difficult conversations, avoiding and deflecting, taking care of others before you take care of yourself and being too generous, not having a savings plan and not preparing for the unexpected, complaining, allowing the wrong people into your space, discipline and procrastination, worrying and negative thoughts, and finally, bad eating habits. All right, so let's touch these areas. Firstly, inconsistency. And I want to start with the positive. For there to be inconsistency means that there is some consistency. You have a level and degree of consistency. But along the path, something enters in to break up your momentum or break up your flow of consistency. And typically that happens because you have not prioritized, because you have too many things going on. And so it's important that you understand how to prioritize your time, how to prioritize your responsibilities. There's only so many things that you do. I don't care who you are, what you're doing, there are only so many things that you can do. And here's, to dive deeper into the issue, here's truly where the issue lies. A lot of times we are major players in too many different areas, right? We have too many major roles and responsibilities. So we have to let the main thing be the main thing and let the minor things be the minor things. We have to phase out some roles and responsibilities, things that we no longer need to hold. And so when we focus or we get focus into our life, it brings clarity into our lives and it gives us the space and opportunity to be consistent. All right. So that's our nugget for consistency. Next thing, redefining past trauma. So trauma is a wound to the soul. Yes, it may be brought on by something that is physical, but it stays with us because there's some injury to us emotionally. And so when we're dealing with that injury, first off, we have to allow ourselves time to go through the process, but we have to be open to the process of self-discovery. We have to discover something about ourselves that gives us power to rewrite the narrative. And as a Christian, I hear this all the time. I hear people say, just hand it over to Jesus and everything will be all right. Yeah, I understand about going through the process and handing things over to Jesus, but still, Jesus is going to make you go through the process. God is going to still make you go through the process. You cannot remove yourself from the equation because it is your life. So you have to be willing to go through that process. And one of the safest ways that I've found to do that is to go through that process first mentally. If you find that you need someone professionally, do not deny yourself of that service because some of us need that. But if you are tackling this by yourself, then give yourself the space to go through this mentally. And each time you revisit it, find something positive. Find an area that is not as painful to you as the last time you visited. And as you grow and mature in that stage, then you're going to have to provide yourself opportunities in the real world for you to go through similar types of scenarios. It's no different from somebody that has injured their self in sports. You know, you sustain the sports injury, and then when you go back out there, you're going to have to put pressure in that same area. You know, it may start out 40% performance, and gain and increase until you get back to 100%. And obviously that's the goal, is to get back to 100% of experience so that you are not afraid of putting pressure in those areas or not afraid of new experiences and growth and development in those areas, okay? Next, breaking bad habits. So understanding breaking bad habits, I want us to no longer focus on the physical things, but I want us to focus on the mental thought process, right? So typically when we go through life and when we go through experiences, we make decisions. And when we make those decisions, we are creating pathways in our brain. And anytime you cut a pathway, that means that it is easier to travel along that road than any other road. So when you come back to similar situations, you make similar decisions, i.e. habits. And if those decisions are bad decisions, then they are called bad habits. So the only way to address bad habits from that standpoint is to change your mental environment. You have to feed yourself new information, get around people that's going to pull you out of the environment that you're in into a positive environment. I do this all the time by making sure I control what's going into my ears, the things that I'm watching, and the things that are around me. And the things that you can't control can be controlled or redefined by the areas that you can control. So to change that narrative, I'm going to challenge you to change your environment, change the things that you're listening to, change the things that you're around, so that it cuts new pathways that are deeper than the negative bad habits that you have cut, or pathways that you have cut. All right. Moving forward, shying away from difficult discussions. So why do we shy away from difficult discussions? Typically because we do not like the repercussions of, torn and tattered relationships, of maybe just negative energy that we're dealing with people in discussing, because we address something that they did not like. But you cannot shy away. You cannot avoid those situations or those conversations that need to happen, because firstly, you injure yourself by holding and harboring something that needs to be expressed, and you injure that person, or you do not give them the benefit of knowing the truth and addressing themselves or making some adjustments to themselves. And one of the easiest ways that I found to do that is to get around people who did that well. Get around people who do not shy away from difficult conversations. They have tact when they're doing it, but they also make sure that they address the situation. And as we get it, it's just like anything else. We get it as we're children, we learn through emulation. And so as we're adults, we also have to learn through emulating, people who show us ways to do this. So take on those things, adopt those things so that you're able to address those situations. Find somebody who does it well. Next, avoiding and deflecting, which is similar to avoiding tough situations, but there is a distinct difference that I want to make here. So when it comes to avoiding and deflecting, it's simply because you have not found a safe landing place to have this conversation, or you do not feel comfortable having this conversation or unpacking this conversation at this time. If you don't feel uncomfortable unpacking the situation, maybe it's something that happened traumatically and you're not ready to deal with it. Or maybe if you have not found a safe landing place, you don't feel comfortable having the conversation with this person because you don't feel that they can provide enough comfort or enough competence to have this conversation, or you just have not found a comfortable place to unpack all this that you have on the inside of you. And so the first thing I'm going to say is that you're going to have to find a comfortable place, whether it's the Word of God, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through the Word of God and prayer and counseling. It could be a combination of things, but you won't know until you put yourself out there to find that safe landing pad. And when you find that safe landing pad, you're going to find that you're going to begin to unpack these things and these situations that you have been avoiding, these things that you have been deflecting, so that you can deal with them. It's very important that you find a place, a safe place to deal with these things, right? Because you don't want to continue harboring these things and these things to fester on the inside. Next thing is taking care of others before you take care of yourself and being too generous. So the reason most people take care of others before they take care of themselves is because generosity is their love language, right? We express our love through the things that we give. And that's a great thing. That is a great quality to have. However, we find that we give too much, or we give in a way that is injurious to ourselves, right? And so now we're dealing with the conflict of, I love giving, but man, this has caused me some pain, or I've injured myself. I've given too much money. I've given too much of my time. I've given too much emotionally. And when you are overspent, it is injurious to yourself. And so you have to find ways to create boundaries. Financially, that would be a budget. Emotionally, that would be some safeguards, or some spending time finding out how to close yourself in, or how to provide some safety or some points of safety when in dealing with people, so that you don't go too far. So in those situations, you have to set up boundaries. And I want you to realize that it's not only injurious to you when you overspend, but it's also injurious to that person, because you're enabling them to continue to come back and to have this benefit that ought not be there, should not be there. And so you have to find a way to remove yourself as the sole provider and say, hey, here's a program, here's an opportunity that I think you need to take advantage of, that I believe is going to help you, but I cannot consistently put myself in a situation of providing for you, okay? So remove yourself. I know it's hard to do. Take baby steps. Maybe a spouse or someone can help you, or a friend or a family member. Couple with that person, partner with that person to keep you accountable. The next thing is planning for the unexpected and having a savings plan. So this goes back to that point of boundaries. And your number one boundary for dealing with unexpected plans is having a budget. So you have to have a budget in order to know how to allocate your spending, right? Because if you do not have a budget, you're going to be allocating your funds in ways that you cannot account for. So it's important that you have a budget, allocated expended plan that has every penny accounted for. And here's one of the things that I do first is, as soon as I get paid, because I know my budget, I allocate, or I put that amount, that percentage of my savings, so that I'm able to know what I'm working with in my bank account, so that I don't overspend for bills or entertainment and all those different things. But the first thing is to have a knowledge of what you have and a plan for it. All right. The next thing is complaining. All right. Why do we find ourselves in an area of complaint, especially chronic complaints? Typically, we find ourselves in situations or prolonged situations that we have no control over, or that we have little to no control over. And because we're in that situation for a long period of time, it gives us a negative perspective on life. And so here's what I want us to understand. The Bible says this, that it rains on the just and it rains on the unjust, which means that we all have opportunities for good things and bad things to come in our lives. And sometimes bad things happen back to back. Sometimes bad things happen over a long period of time. You know, it can be a couple of months, it can be a couple of years. But we have to make sure that we maintain a positive perspective, because if we do not, we miss the opportunities for blessings and people to come into our lives with good opportunities. Why? Because people that have good opportunities and blessings and things like that, they're typically want to be around people that have a positive outlook, people that have a positive mentality. And so if you always go around with this negative perspective and negative mentality, then you put yourself in a position of being overlooked for the good opportunities, all right? So I know it may be difficult. I know you may be going through things over and over again, but it's so important for you to maintain a positive perspective. Get around people. Put yourself in an environment of positivity where you can maintain that. All right, the next thing is allowing people into your space, or allowing the wrong people into your space. So typically when we allow the wrong people into our space, it's because we share something in common with them, all right? Let me give you an example. If you are an intellectual person, you're going to draw intellectual people. You're going to draw intellectual people that are, Christian, that are Buddhist, that are agnostic, that are atheists. You're going to draw intellectual people across the spectrum. So you relate to them on an intellectual level, although you may not identify with them on a religious level. You may not identify with some of their family views or some of their world views. You identify with them because there's an intellectual stimulus there, or basis there. So if you are consistently drawing negative people, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to identify what you have in common with them. And if the thing that you have in common with them is something negative, then that's something that you need to change within your story. That's something that you need to address, right? You need to do your homework and find out why you're doing this. And if it's something that's positive, but maybe there's just some points of negativity, you have to realize that everybody that comes into your life is not meant to stay. Some people you're just crossing the path. Some people it's just, you were going on one direction and they were going the other. and you just happen to meet, and you just wave at them on your way, and you just keep going. So do the homework of finding out whether or not it's something that you need to change, or maybe it's a decision that you need to make of who stays and who goes. All right. The next thing is discipline and procrastination. And I'm going to focus on procrastination here. All right. And typically, here's what happens is that we find a way to make it work even when we procrastinate, right? We're given assignments at work, we're given assignments at home, or we have things that we need to do. And as long as there's this pressure on us, pressure from a boss, pressure from friends, pressure from, the public, then we do it, right? Because we don't want that public shame. But where we typically procrastinate is in areas, especially, or we don't get things done in areas where there is no pressure. So here's one of the things that I do, and here's what I'm going to suggest to you, is that you got to put pressure on yourself to get things done via public accountability, which means that you got to put yourself out there publicly, whether it's to friends, family, Facebook, social media, whatever it is that says, here's something that I need to get done, that I'm going to get done. And guess what? Attach a penalty to that accountability. A penalty can be something financially. It could be, hey, I've got to, get pie in the face. I've got to, walk 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever it is. You know what a penalty is to you, but set a true penalty that motivates you to go beyond that procrastination and do it. And guess what? As you're doing that, you're learning new habits that are going to help you, also in the future defeat habits of procrastination and gain discipline. Next thing is worrying and negative thoughts. All right, so if you are worrying and you constantly have negative thoughts, it's typically because you're thinking about things that are outside of your control. And when you're constantly focusing about things that are outside of your control, then it's going to put you in a place of fear. And guess what? When you put yourself in a place of fear, you are going to find opportunities for fear. So you're going to have to, here's one of the things that I do to not focus on things that I have no control over. One of the things that I think about is, people that are in worse situations that I'm in, and it gives me a little relief to say, you know what, if this person can go through this worst situation, then Norman, you can go through your situation, even if something bad happens. So don't fear things that could happen or things that may happen in the future. And the next thing that I hold to is that I'm accepted by God, which means that I have faith that God is not going to allow me to ultimately fail, right? There's only so low that I can go in a situation that before I believe God is going to step in and pick me out of it. Or I believe that God is going to help me through the process. He's going to give me blessings along the way that help me deal with not only good situations, but also some of the bad situations, right? So even if you go through situations, some of the things that you worried about, God is going to help you through it. Have faith and confidence that God is not going to leave you there by yourself to go through it. So eliminate the worry about things that you cannot control. And the very last thing is bad eating habits, all right? Typically, when it comes to bad eating habits, we are focused on stress, or we are in environments of stress, on environments that we don't particularly care for. And again, I'm going to go back to this. Maybe there's a lot of things within this stressful environment that we do not have control over. And so what do? Our brain tells us to go back to some of these unhealthy eating habits, right? Like things that we eat during Christmas, or it goes back to, things that we eat during the holidays, or fun foods that we ate during the weekend. And so it's the brain's way of escaping your current reality. And so the only way to deal with these different things is that you have to create a new narrative. You have to write a new story. You got to get around people that are doing some of the things that you want to do, right? People that are eating healthily, people that are exercising, people that are finding ways to deal with some of the challenges that you're going through right now. And guess what? When you connect with these people and you find new environments, you have the opportunity to create new memories, right? Every memory doesn't have to be a memory with, of you eating pizza and ice cream and, daddy taking you here or mommy taking you there, or you going and having a good time. No, it doesn't have to be that. There are great positive memories, new memories that you can create that have a component of health tied to it, that have positive components tied to it. But you have to go out and seek those opportunities out. You have to go out and seek those environments out. Okay. So again, as you guys go back and listen to the things that apply to you, and know that it's so important to address the mental capacity of bad habits, even more so than the bad habits themselves. All right. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this message and you've listened and you've learned something that you can take with you in your day. Hey, I want you guys to go out and like my page. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you guys can receive information and more updates. I have more great content that is coming. So love you guys. Take this information and be great. Take care.